Have you ever been blocked by perfection? Has that kept you from doing something? Well, this weekend, it almost kept me ashore. It almost kept me from coming out on this kayak camping trip. The conditions are not great. It is rainy and wet, and it'll be a little windy overnight, but they're not unsafe conditions. They're just uncomfortable conditions. And that almost kept me from coming out here. But I decided to let that go, to surrender to all that and to let that go, and to come out here and see what happens. Best case scenario, I make an episode for you that you enjoy. Worst case scenario, I spend a night in my tent all cozy and dry reading my book. So win-win for me either way. I hope it works out for you. All right, let's get going. Well, friends, we are on the south side of Mount Desert Island today. And I know it's spelled Mount Desert Island, but locals call it Mount Desert Island. So there you go. Our goal today is an overnight camping trip on Crow Island, which is on the south side of the Cranberries. I crossed over from Seal Harbor to Sutton Island and then took a bearing to Little Cranberry just in case it got cloudy or foggy for that matter, and I couldn't see where I was going. I had a visual bearing off my deck compass. It looked like conditions were going to be pretty decent this weekend. And then towards the end of the week, they really shifted, and we've got this rainstorm here today with higher winds tonight. And I was going to bag the trip. I was going to say, why bother? What's the point? Kind of nihilistic. Just kind of pushing through that, like, how wet and gross do I feel like being? If this was just a day along a multi-day journey, I wouldn't think anything of it. It's gonna be a little wet. I'll dry some stuff off. I'm safe. I'm warm. And this might not be a day trip I would normally do if I could choose not to do it. Save it for the dry days. But I don't know. There's a little bit of a missed opportunity in that, I think. We practice our rainy day camping skills, which how often do you get to practice your rainy day camping skills if you only paddle in sunny weather? Coming out of the little village of Ileford with a couple of the islands, the smaller islands off of Great Cranberry here to my west and rounding, and I'm starting to see my destination. Okay, we're going to cross over to Great Cranberry, this channel, which now we're on the ebb tide. We're maybe the second hour of the tide, maybe an hour and a half after high tide. So all the water from Frenchman Bay and Somme Sound is trying to squirt around different spots and different spaces, and this is definitely one of the channels that's trying to get out. And I can see the water trying to push out a little bit as it's coming through this constriction. And I can even see an eddy line here. It's nothing we can't paddle against. It's not dangerous currents, but there's definitely water moving that way. And since it's going the way I want it to go, and really probably around that point was the worst it was going to be, I'm not too worried. I don't see anything that I can't paddle in. So this channel on the south side of Little Cranberry and Great Cranberry is definitely one of the considerations. I think I would put the other consideration in this area, just crossing from Seal Harbor over to Sutton. There's a lot of boat traffic there, particularly in the summer. Pick a straight line, get across, get through where you need to be. The landing on Crow Island gets a little bit easier, a bit past high tide and not quite at low tide. It is access all tide, but I find it really high tide. It's very steep, and it's kind of hard to get to where you need to be. So although I am close to the island here, I'm just going to bimble around and explore the island before coming back around and landing. Get shallow here. Waves want to stand up a little bit. This will be fun. Whee! I'm just gonna watch this channel for a second. The energy dies down. There's a small wave that stands up on the other side of it, but I don't see a lot of wave energy or it breaking. It just kind of wraps around this point, particularly on the bigger set. So there looks like there's a gap a little bit closer to Crow Island. So yeah, this feels relatively slow right now. So I'm gonna move from a safe spot of water to another safe spot of water on the other side of all this. Okay, so around Crow Island, and now we're gonna find a landing spot. Okay, it was wet. It was kind of soggy. I'm a little soggy. I'm a little raw, but we're on Crow Island. We made it. So I think my plan is, because the tide's going out, which, as we've determined, is the best time to land on an island, close to high tide, so you don't have a long way to carry stuff and you don't have to rush to get stuff out of your boat. Okay, since the tide is going out and it's raining, I think I'm gonna focus on getting my tent set up and then giving myself a place to then unload the boat and get stuff into the tent where it's dry, and then I'll sort the boat out. So that's my plan, and we'll see how the rain holds up for that. Oh, and I didn't mention it. I keep my tent stuff in the bow of my boat really close to the hatch, not right next under the hatch. I kind of get some other things in there, but really close so that when it is gross or when it's disgusting, I can pull out the dry bags that hold my tent. And today the luxury is I took the big tent and it fits into 2 dry bags a little easier than 1 big dry bag. So, and yeah, I just keep the poles separate, way up in the bow of my boat. So everything that I needed was in the bow. Everything's gonna stay nice and dry, and now I'm gonna go set a tent up in between rainstorms. All right, I'll see you up there. It's not a terribly big island, and there's a tent platform that I've camped on before that my plan is to camp on again this time, and there's also a little meadow just a little bit past the tent platform to camp on. I took the big tent because I knew that I'd have a bunch of wet stuff, and I wanted to spread out a little bit, and I didn't want to have to deal with a tarp. So my small tent, which had been warmer in the tarp, versus a big tent. I kind of want to get the tent set up fast on the platform in case it starts raining again. So let's try this. Yeah, here we go. Well, hello again. It's been a few hours since I got the tent set up and moved the boat and got everything sorted. And I was just kind of enjoying organizing in the tent. I don't have much light left, and that was a bit of a known quantity. I tried to push the trip a little later in the day just to be on the other side of some of the rain. So I knew today wasn't going to be a huge day of having a lot of daylight to film. Let's, oh, before we go there, that way is the way to the other campsite in the meadow. But it's pretty high wet stuff right now, and although I do have my waterproof socks on in tick prevention mode with my dry suit shoes or sneakers on, I don't really feel like getting like my thighs soaking wet by going back there. So I'm going to try to pick a path around the ledge, around the island, and maybe tomorrow That'll be dry, although I doubt it'll be dry tomorrow. We're supposed to get more rain tonight. So let's head this way and see what we get into. Got the boat well above the high tide line. So this is the low tide bar. I didn't realize this was connected. We paddled over this, and it now makes sense why so many things were happening over this bar. Look how shallow that bar is. We also paddled over this bar a little while ago when that really big wave stood up, and I got to punch through that wave. So that makes some sense why those areas are a little gnarly. Way behind me in that fog bank is the massive of Mount Desert Island. And I do think this is one of the best views of Acadia National Park, because it's a view not many people get to be able to see it from this perspective. And you're not seeing it today either, because it's cloudy and covered in fog, but maybe tomorrow. But if you do have the chance to get out here, it is a pretty spectacular view of Mount Desert Island. As the sun is setting, as the sun's a little bit lower, so there's just beautiful colors in the sky. Beautiful view of the open ocean here on the southern tip of Crow. Let's see, over my shoulder, can I show you? Way out there is Baker Island. There's a beautiful lighthouse. It's part of Acadia National Park. It's a really fun trip. There's a pretty big bar that connects Little Cranberry to Baker, so plan that trip accordingly. It can be really big and breaking over that bar, but there's plenty of room to get around it. It's just definitely something to be cautious of as you're paddling there. There are seals all over the ledges behind me, and I can't see them, but boy, can I hear them. They sound like you know, demonic creatures coming for your soul, this sound. So hopefully they stay on their side of the bay and I stay on mine and I wake up with a soul. We'll find out. I wish you could hear them. I'm not sure any of the sound's going to get picked up. It's getting a little drowned out by the waves. Oh well. Well, if something happened to me, or if I come back with a heart of darkness, at least you know why. Way out in the fog, a huge cruise ship leaving Bar Harbor. At first I was like, what island is that? And I was like, I think that island's moving. I think with the fading light, I'm going to get back to camp and save more island exploration for tomorrow. But yeah, that was the southern tip of Crow Island. One thing you're not getting here is the smell of decaying kelp. And I remember this about the last time I was here. It is like such a big kelp bed, and I don't know if there's something about this island that it washes up here. But leaving here a couple of summers ago, we were doing like this low tide kelpy horror. It smelled so bad, and that's a bit what I smell right now as the tide is out. So oh well, that's part of it. It's just nature, but it is a little, it could be better. I'm just gonna say that, it could be better. So I was just about to sit down and kind of wrap up for the night, but every time I do, the color behind me just gets more and more magical with the setting sun. It's beautiful. Wasn't an easy day out here, and I'm grateful that it stopped raining, because that would have made it a lot more difficult. And yeah, camping can just sometimes just be such a focused activity. Before I knew it, it's late. You know, now I'm thinking about dinner and getting dinner going in a little bit, which it'll be dark for. But it's lovely out here. It's really beautiful. I wouldn't have had this experience or this downtime if I didn't make it through some of the challenges I had. Well, it's not going to be perfect weather, and is it going to be comfortable? And I was afraid of not making it, like wasting my time. I think that's what it was. I think I was afraid of wasting my time. Coming out here, trying to make an episode for you all, like running around, getting all this footage and having none of it's usable. And it still may be the case. I'm not entirely sure. Every time lapse I've set up tonight, the GoPro lens is fogged over. There's just so much moisture that once that camera body heats up a little bit and it runs for a little while, it's just total fog. So I've got some amazing foggy time lapses. I guess it's not hard to have an amazing foggy time lapse, but I've got several of them. And yeah, I guess that's not the point. The point is maybe in the imperfection. The point is maybe the rawness and the realness and the uncomfortable journey out here, and the fact that it's wet and it might not make the best production experience, but it's real. It's what I'm experiencing, and it's what I chose to experience today. It's what I didn't shut down in order to be comfortable. Because I tell you what, like watching Netflix right now sounds amazing. From my couch, warm, cozy, hanging out with my wife and my dog. That sounds pretty nice. But this is pretty nice too. So with the setting sun behind me, wherever it went, there it is, somewhere over there. I think I'm gonna start to wind down for the night. I've got everything packed up. One of the things I brought on this trip that I actually wanted to tell you about was a ground cloth. My friend Joe Herlihy, who paddled the Maine coast this summer, brought this along and was like, Joe, what's the one thing I should like take on trips? He's like, you gotta get one of these. And I don't know if he had such a great experience with it. I think he had a mixed experience with it. I didn't find that out until after mine came. But that ground cloth on a tent platform, I can't tell you how many times I would have dropped something down in between the slats of the tent platform in my little vestibule area here that I don't know if I would have gotten back out. So that little tent, or that ground cloth, has been something I've really enjoyed this year. It's really serving itself well right now. It's also nice just to have a place to be dry and not on the wet wood or the wet grass, or yeah, it just feels a little bit more like home. Okay, friends, well, I think this is going to be me, at least unless something amazing happens, for the night, and I'll catch you in the morning. Good morning. It was an okay night. I think the sleeping pad was overinflated, so it got a little stiff. The wind shifted to the north last night. The breeze picked up a bit, and the tent rattles a little bit and shakes a little bit, but she's sturdy, she was secure, and I woke up a little every once in a while from a tent flap or just noise on the tent from the wind. Pretty heavy morning. The clouds are thick. The mountains are still obscured on Mount Desert Island. You kind of see them a little bit through the clouds, but I think it's going to be a pretty heavy day again today. Hopefully the wind will continue to die down, but thankfully I'm not in a rush this morning. I've got a nice quiet morning and a nice slow morning. I don't have to rush out of here like my last camping trip, so that is nice. So breakfast is done. I'm kind of cleaned up a bit from breakfast, and now I want to explore a little bit more of the island. As is the case, I don't have as much time as I always want to have on these things. Everything just takes so much longer to do. So yeah, let's explore a little bit more and see what we get into and see what's where, and yeah, learn a little bit more about this place. Seen a lot of this plantain growing in little cracks and crevices. These are edible. You can snip them off and nibble on the green bits. These particular ones are very tired. It might be a little late in the season for them. But when these are really green and vibrant. You can add them into like a stir fry or some extra veg for your food. I don't know, it's somewhere between like a spring onion and a cucumber. Might be my best description of at least these that are a little tired. But yeah, plantains. Very common. You'll find them all up and down the coast. Another thing I've seen a lot of on this island are beach peas, and they grow right along the shoreline, the high tide line, just above the high tide line, and pretty little flowers in the spring, and then they'll have, I believe it's two times that they produce little peas, and you can eat them. This rose didn't get the memo that it's almost winter. Late bloomer. Keep going, sweetheart. Also have some yummy rose hips. This one looks pretty good. I kind of want them a little soft to the touch. These are packed with seeds. There are a ton of seeds in here, but that flesh is really nice. It's a lot of vitamin C. You can make teas out of these things, and again, just a thing to nibble. This time of year, I look to see if there are any bugs inside instead of just popping them in my mouth or starting to nibble away. So kind of tear them apart and tear off a little bit of the flesh. Yeah, like apple and cranberry. That's a good one. Finally, when it gets colder, they start to soften up a bit. It's a small little island and easy to walk around. I didn't really venture into the center of it because I don't want to get soaking wet, but the outside of it is a quick walk. I tried to get to as far as the bar, across the bar as I could. I didn't get very far. It's good to see that it's filling back in with water. That opens up both sides. If I want to launch from either side, I sort of got that in the game plan. So now's the time where I'm going to get my dry suit clothing on, get the tent packed up, and I'm putting my dry suit clothing on first just in case it rains. I can dress dry. Dry suit clothing on, pack up the tent, get the boat down to the water, and then load the boat and start the journey back. All the mountains on Mount Desert Island are finally free of clouds, and we're catching a little bit of color on some of the mountains. Back into the Ilford Harbor on Little Cranberry, and then we're going to jump over to Sutton. Oh, seagulls. Hey guys. Then we're going to jump over to Little Sutton. I'm sorry, Sutton, regular size Sutton, normal Sutton. And then from there back to the mouth of Seal Harbor, and then in. It's a beautiful dory up ahead. Traditional colors too, ochre and green. These boats were like the Ford F-150s of the late 18th and early 19th century. They're easy to build. You could, the seats come out. I forget the name of the type of seat that comes out, but the seats come out and you would like stack them on a schooner, and then they'd sail offshore and drop them in the water, and fishermen would go fishing for cod in them, and you could fully load them up with fish and row back to the schooner. Around some of these areas, they also were the working boat, the lobstering boat, so people would lobster from them. And then the dory with the trees changing color in the background and the village. And is this filmmaker of the year type stuff? I think so. Crossing from the north point of Little Cranberry over to Sutton before doing the last open crossing back to Seal Harbor. We're just off the eastern tip of Sutton, and I've got a little bit left to go. I'm glad I didn't wait for perfect conditions. or better conditions to come and do this trip. But these less than ideal conditions didn't stop me from coming out. There is no perfect time, right? Like, if we wait for the perfect time, all we're doing is missing our chance to have experiences and push our growth edge and explore a little bit. And I don't think any growth happens outside of our comfort zone. Our comfort zone is our comfort zone for a reason. And getting outside of that comfort zone, however much, a little bit, a lot, allows us to create new experiences that inform us. I'll remember this experience. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had fun coming out here with me and seeing what it looks like to make an episode in the rain and camp on an island in less than awesome conditions, and finally now just start to see the beautiful mountains on Mount Desert Island that we're fogged in. But it was still an experience. Well, friends, I'm going to make the quick little jump back to Seal Harbor. As always, I hope you enjoy your adventures, whatever they are. I'm so grateful you're following my adventure and following this journey. Okay, until next time, safe paddling.